Here's a few tips to nail those hybrid events. One of the key topics that we look at when we're looking at any hybrid event is what we call hybrid equity. Hybrid equity is ensuring that those virtual participants are able to have an equally engaging experience as what the in-person participants are. Tip number one is what hybrid equity is all about. Determine your engagement plan. For your participants who are both online as well as in person, we want them to be able to engage in the same ways. In general sessions, that becomes a little more difficult. And actually, the virtual participants or online participants have more of an advantage. They can ask a question using a Q&A pod, answer poll questions right on their screen. For the participants who are in person, they don't have that ability. So what do? We bring in another platform, something along the lines of Slido, where everybody can scan a QR code, and now they can ask their questions from inside Slido, or they can answer the poll questions as they come up, and everybody's able to interact in the same way. And that's the key to hybrid equity. For tip number two, it's important to have professional support if at all possible. And that's the AV setup that you're going to have. Now, we use an acronym called AV squared when we're working with a client to set up a hybrid event. The first step is audio, which is the A, and that's making sure that everybody who needs to be able to present can present. So obviously your speakers are going to be mic'd up, but if you're in a training event, that may mean that we need to add some additional mics for the participants as well. Second is the video. We want to have at least two cameras, one for the presenter and one for the audience, so that those virtual participants can see the audience as well. And for the in-person participants and presenter, we actually want to have some monitors so that the virtual participants can be on camera in those smaller training sessions and meetings too. And then finally comes the venue, and that is what size setup do we have? How big is it? And what does the room look like? And so those elements all come into making sure that you're able to deliver hybrid equity so that those virtual participants and in-person participants have the same experience. And finally, let's talk about seamless integration. This focuses on the platform, or really I would say platforms that you're using. Unlike a fully virtual event where you can use a single platform and it's going to be able to have your Q&A in it and your poll questions and your audio and your video and your screen sharing and everything else. In a hybrid event, you want to make sure that you have platforms that can work well and be flexible and work with other platforms. Like we talked about earlier, something along the lines of being able to have the polling and Q&A in an outside platform like Slido, but then your virtual event running in, say, Zoom or WebEx or Teams or whatever it may be. Those aspects are important to have that integration so that everybody can engage and work together inside of the event. And the end result is hybrid equity. I just want to give you one real quick example. We had a hybrid event that was a business development workshop. It was a training event with breakouts, and participants needed to be able to interact with each other, both in person and virtual, throughout the entire day. That was our engagement plan. Second, as we started to look at what the AV setup was, it was a combination of microphones for every participant who was in person. The virtual participants had their cameras and mics on the entire time, and there were monitors to make sure that in-person participants could see virtual, and there was a camera to make sure virtual participants could see in person, as well as a facilitator. Finally, we had a two-person team who was there, and we used WebEx as the primary platform because it had breakout capabilities as well as audio and video capabilities that we were able to pull through. Here, we only have a couple of minutes to talk about those hybrid events, how we designed them and implemented them. In the future, we'll have some more videos that go more in depth into designing, developing hybrid events. But in the meantime, if you want to reach out to us and talk more about hybrid events, please let us know, or Put it in the comments.